It is now in order to consider Amendment Number 4, printed in House Report 112-283. For what purpose does the gentlewoman from Texas rise? Clerk will designate the amendment.
Amendment Number 4, printed in House Report Number 112-283, offered by Ms. Jackson Lee of Texas.
Pursuant to House Resolution 463, the gentlewoman from Texas, Ms. Jackson Lee, and a member opposed, each will control 5 minutes. The chair recognizes the gentlewoman from Texas.
Mr. Chairman, I am hoping that there will be no member that will oppose a common sense amendment that allows our law enforcement officers to be more protected. One might think, as I point to this picture of a nurse giving a young man an immunization shot and the young man squinting, that I would be more in tune with this legislation to have a law enforcement officer or a policeman dressed in their uniform. I put a child here because I wanted to emphasize the fact that can we have any disagreement that if we put our law enforcement officers in jeopardy, many of them leave behind families. Or I might use as an example, this young child is squinting in pain for immunization, and that won't harm them. But a person recklessly having stolen maybe someone's gun that comes with the national concealed law, the right to carry law, may not have a squinting child, but rather a dead child. Let me give you an example of the legislation or the amendment that I have in real time. A North Harris police officer in 2008 had a traffic stop. Before he went to this individual that he was stopping, he dutifully went to the dispatcher, a database, to find out who this might be. Tragically, it was not soon enough because a gun was taken and he was shot dead. He leaves behind a wife and 2 children, albeit the fact that I have a child here. Because I'm simply trying to create a simple amendment to this bill that would protect our law enforcement. What does my amendment do? It ensures that a comprehensive database is created to provide a listing of individuals from each state who possess permits and licenses to carry concealed weapons. This amendment would also require that the concealed weapons database be available to law enforcement officers in all states 24 hours a day. Thank goodness, because of federal funding, many of our law enforcement officers have their laptops, maybe some of them even their iPads, and so this database is a simple process. It is interesting, or it should be known, that 36 states are especially adversely impacted by this bill because 36 states do not grant any reciprocity. 27 states recognize concealed carry permits from only select states. So a 24-hour database, I believe, would do what Republicans and Democrats say they want to do, protect law enforcement officers. Failing to implement a national system that would allow law enforcement officials to check the status of individuals who are legally allowed to carry a concealed gun will result in a routine situation, such as a traffic stop, becoming a life-threatening situation. If an officer discovered a gun during a routine traffic stop, the officer might quickly and accurately determine this guy is legal as to whether the driver or lady possesses a valid out-of-state permit. Oh yes, we can offer reciprocity, but does the officer on the street walk around and look at the car that's coming across the border of their state and the sign says, we have reciprocity, I am from such and such, I'm okay? It is nearly impossible task for the officer to verify the validity of 48 different carry permits. Are we going to have a national carry permit in the middle of what could be a tense situation, even if that person is legally carrying it based upon the permit from another state? According to the majority's report on this bill, only 18 states maintain an electronic database of concealed carry permits that are immediately accessible to other law enforcement agencies. 7 states cannot provide any real-time access to this basic information to out-of-state agencies, and 2 states do not even maintain a database for their own purposes. This amendment gives our local law enforcement a plausible chance to verify whether out-of-state concealed carry permits are legitimate. I'd love to offer a moment to my ranking member on this amendment. How much time do I have?
The gentlelady
has 1 minute remaining.
For yielding, and I am in full support of the logical and rational approach that she is taking in supporting a database. I plead with my colleagues to join us in a bipartisan sense to support an amendment that would create a comprehensive mechanism so that all permits and licenses for carrying concealed weapons would be available on a 24-hour-a-day basis. And I congratulate the lady on her amendment.
I thank the gentleman for his kindness. Who can oppose such a simple amendment, particularly when it is noted that some states do not have this electronic database? The officer who went to his dispatcher was doing the right thing. He lost his life. He left behind children. Do we want squinting children getting an immunization shot or getting shot? I ask my colleagues to support this amendment.
What purpose does the gentleman from South Carolina rise?
Mr. Chairman, I rise in opposition to the amendment.
Gentleman's recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This amendment seeks to require states to maintain a database of all concealed carry permits that would be accessible to law enforcement officers 24 hours a day. This amendment, aside from being a version of NCIC for law-abiding citizens, is unnecessary for a number of reasons. The state issuing authority already maintains a database of concealed carry permits, and a number of states make these databases accessible to law enforcement through the inlet system, which law enforcement in all 50 states can use to determine whether someone visiting from another state is carrying a valid concealed permit. This system is available to law enforcement officers 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Law enforcement officers can also contact other states to determine whether a person has a criminal background, a warrant out for their arrest, or other information that will help determine whether someone poses a safety threat to themselves or the general public. But the fundamental flaw of this amendment is that it continues to place conditions and restraints on law-abiding citizens, all the while ignoring the obvious, which is that people intent on doing harm do not register their firearms, nor call ahead to report their travel schedule. No database has yet been created which can determine whether a person with a firearm intends to use it in a criminal matter, whether the firearm is carried illegally or not. So officers are trained to be careful in every situation and have the authority to take necessary precautions to ensure the safety of those on the scene of an investigative stop. This amendment, as is true with many other amendments that we have and will consider today, is premised on the flawed view that concealed carry permit holders pose a threat to public safety. People intent on committing illegal acts will not go to the trouble of obtaining a concealed carry permit, and statistics back that up. I oppose the amendment, Mr. Chairman, and I yield back.
Gentleman yields back the balance of his time. Question is on the amendment offered by the gentleman from Texas. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. Gentleman from pursuant to Clause 6 of Rule 18, further proceedings on the amendment offered by the gentlewoman from Texas will be postponed.